You know what, let's skip the superintendents. We still have an action item before us. I know some people have got some time constraints. So this is the K-5 and 9-12 science standards revision. We'll have Deputy Superintendent Patty Norman. Will you come up?
Deputy Superintendent Patty Norman. We just wanted to start by framing this conversation, and the conversation is currently we are looking at the K-5 and 9-12 standards revision process for science. If you look in board docs on this agenda item, which is agenda item 15.1, and you look in the items to consider, sorry, yes, 15.1. The first thing on there is our standards process, and if you'll click on the standards process and look at that, you'll see that where we are at currently is on number 3 in the standards revision process. So this is the report of the Standards Review Committee recommendations to the board, and that's the decision point that will be made today, is the revisions to the board. Further information was asked from the board last month before the revisions were either approved or not, the recommendations were approved or not approved. And so as you'll go back to your board docs and look at the items that are within there, one of the items, and this was asked for by board member Terrell Warner, who's not here right now, was what are the top 10 states in AP, NAEP, and ACT in science, and then what standards are they currently using. So if you will look right there at the state standard test rankings and standards PDF that is in there, you'll see the ranking, and we'll have that. The second item to discuss is the crosswalk. The crosswalk talks about what things are in the current state standards and those things that are in the NGSS framework, those standards as well. And Ricky Scott is fully prepared to walk you through the crosswalk if needed, and we'll wait for further direction from you on questions in the state rankings and in the crosswalk if so needed.
We have a question from Board Member Brittany Cummins.
I'd like to make a motion. I move that we accept the recommendations from the Standards Review Committee and move forward with the writing committee for the K-5, 9-12 science standards.
We have a motion and a second. Comment? Do you want to speak to your motion before I take comment? Okay. Board Member Hanson.
Board Member Warner had to leave, but she wanted me to share some things with you before we voted. She emailed every single high school teacher in District 1, a high school science teacher in District 1, several teachers in other districts. She emailed USU, Weber, USC, University of Massachusetts, and Florida State science teachers, professors in physics, chemistry, and biology, and science ed teachers. They all said the same thing she said, that they feel like NGSS is a little weak in math, in physics and chemistry, and that they don't support the integrated model, that they needed we need separate classes in biology, physics, and chemistry, and that the students would need at least 2 years of 2 years of science, probably physics and chemistry for STEM fields. And so she wanted to let you know that that's what she found out when she emailed everybody. She said that she is in favor of us going through the same process we did with the middle school standards, because she has talked to the teachers about the middle school standards, and the kids love them and seem to be learning well from those standards. So she is in favor of that process, but she thinks that we should not integrate the way NGSS does. So there you have it.
Okay. Vice Chair Ellis. Oh, I thought I hit it.
I'm used to having to hit the button again. I'm not going to belabor the discussion that we've already had. I would like to see more data than just what is presented here, because a lot of the states, when they adopted the standards, how long they've been implemented, where the test scores are coming from, because I know Rhode Island, their ACT scores in science were dropping after they adopted NGSS. And so I don't find that this is an accurate picture, because I need to see where the statistics are coming from and a more thorough outlook on them instead of just this little snapshot. If I can get that information, that would be helpful to me also. For me, this is a matter of principle. The review committee, I don't disagree with their goal. We have a lot of common ground. The problem is I don't agree with their solution. And it's just a matter of a difference of opinion. I believe that education is best served when it's decentralized. It may not be as efficient and as effective, but I believe it's a very powerful thing. And so I don't want this to be a your side, my side, because basically we have the same goal. What these kids came today and did was a great thing to see them come today. And so I think that we need to make sure that we recognize that everybody has the same goal in mind of wanting kids to be able to excel, question, but it doesn't mean that we all think that the solutions are the same. And so that's a matter of principle for me. I don't believe in centralizing education. I feel like these types of moves are a move towards a centralization of power over education. And we can have a discussion about what power looks like, how those are defined, and we're probably not going to come to an agreement, because I have very strong beliefs one way and other people have very strong beliefs another way. But it's not a mechanism, it's not a means that we need to just throw each other under the bus all the time. And so I just want to make sure that we recognize the ability to have conversations, and that one side doesn't hate kids and one side doesn't like kids more than the others or have better intentions than others. And I think it's important to recognize that. Sorry for giving a diatribe. I have a little bit more to say. But I also think that we need to be thorough in these discussions. I still believe that it's not a very wise thing to use one source as a primary source. I really liked the recommendation that we heard today by one of the commenters to look at what we have and see what's going to be fixed, because there was a lot of platitudes given today by different commenters all over, different spectrums and what their belief systems were. But I have failed to see how Next Generation Science Standards addresses some of the concerns that people have. Yes, the standards are old, they're outdated, but I'm failing to see how Next Generation Science Standards solves that. I also believe that I'm concerned about the move that we have in all areas of standards, across, math, English, all of them are moving to implement pedagogy into standards instead of just being a standard to reach. And I'm concerned about that, because that is affecting the way teachers are teaching. And that's why we see similar concerns across the nation. People that are constantly, we see the same math sheet from across the nation, and that's partly because of this centralization and because everyone is embedding these pedagogy teaching implements, sorry, I am not good at the educator speak, but into standards themselves. I believe that in standards that are more simplified, where we know what we want to achieve, and then all the other things and the tools and the things that people are loving, and that reigniting of love and passion for teaching, those can be used. I just fail to see why they have to be embedded into standards. And so these are just my opinions. I know it's my opinions and not that of others, but I just want to make sure that people recognize, that I recognize that I have the same goals that a lot of the committee members, the parent review members that came up today. I believe in a lot of the same things that they did. We have a lot of common beliefs. It's just, like I said, our solutions are different.
Okay. Board Member Lisa Cummins.
Two things. One, maybe Rick Scott can answer this. He submitted the NAEP scores, and he has them listed as 160, 165. But when I go to the NAEP the NAEP website, we're listed as 50, you know. So where are you getting the 165? And I'm seeing 50 and 25 and 38 and all these lower numbers. So how are you?
Great question. So when it came to the data, it was, Ricky Scott, Science Specialist, Utah State Board of Education, Teaching and Learning. When it came to that, we had Aaron Bruff up and run some numbers. They had access. Actually, believe it or not, before I was done sitting here, because of the conversation, they already started running some of those numbers. There are two numbers you'll get. One is a percentage of proficiency within a state. That's the numbers between that's usually the 50s and 60s you see. Mm-hmm. And then there's a score itself that you'll see. So you'll see this description above that says there's a scale in the range from 0 to 300. So it's using that scale range. But that also does equate to percentile as well as far as proficiency.
Okay.
So we just used one of the two scores that are available.
Okay.
I could try. Again, I just got it from Aaron, so I'm happy to show the data that Aaron gave me.
That would be great.
You have a follow-up?
Yes,
Or
I
more?
had two. I had
Okay.
another question. Well, more of a statement, really. I'm looking at the NGS standards, or actually the whole revision of science standards, in a slightly different frame of thinking. I don't want to leave anybody out of the conversation, and I certainly don't want to. There are things that I disagree with on NGSS. There are some things that I don't. I'm talking to my own group of expertise, scientists, those that are world and national known, and some of the things that have been brought forward is that some of the integration or the flow, the age appropriateness is becoming better, I think, with from what I've been told for the NGSS at the elementary level. For example, I was told that one individual likes the split of weather and earth systems into 3rd and 5th grade. 4th was too young for certain concepts and their ability to analyze. So, you know, they like that distribution. Magnetism was bumped down to 3rd, which goes along much better with the grades that grade teaches, and it's not a difficult concept to teach. 5th grade kept matter and basic chemistry in some space, which is great. 6 was a little old for certain topics on space. You know, so that, you know, things are becoming more age appropriate. What I don't want to do is water down some and then be heavy on one topic and leave out a whole bunch of what should have been there. So I noticed in the crosswalk, from what I could see, there was a whole long list of what our current standards don't have that the NGS does cover. But likewise, I wasn't seeing what we cover that the NGSS did not cover, right? So I think we're still missing that component as well. And how do we merge the two? But that's just for the elementary. The high school, I think, as we get into through middle school and high school, I think some of our concerns are more of a on principle, some of the concepts that we're leaving out a First Amendment thing, where we're teaching one aspect but we're not sharing the opposite, the counter argument. So I think, you know, so that may be something that we can look at with the writing going forward, so that we're not just heavy on NGSS on that one side, but that we're showcasing both sides of the argument. I mean, you saw today, you know, we're always getting both sides of the argument, right? So if we show that, you know, and not just be heavy on one, I think we can be more in sync, more have a good dialogue of what needs to be taught, instead of an end of disrespect on the end of the conversation, which I don't want to happen. I want to see more of a comparison, side-by-side analysis of both arguments being displayed that we both can agree on, so that we're not scared of one side or the other. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah, if we go back to the standards revision process, if we look right now, we're on number 3, reporting the recommendations to the board. We have through step 12, And if we look at step 4, we're going to have the writing committee organized, but step 5, reporting those revisions back here. So all along the way, there's going to be a report on where we're going, what's happening, and that communication should be very open and transparent. So along the way for that feedback to occur, and for the board to be able to say, is this the right direction?
For me, it's not, if I may follow up, Chair.
Yeah, follow up.
For me, it's not, I'm not going to throw the NGS out completely, because I do recognize that there's some of the standards that are good, but there's also some that I do have concerns with, you know. I didn't know there was a percentage with that. I mean, Mr. Strickland said 10-15%, right? But if we can focus and get that, so it's 100% across the board on both sides, that there's equal, you know, anyways, you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
So just so that
Feedback.
there's feedback,
Communication.
communication, and that it's recognized in the standards, so that it's not biased one towards another.
Thank you.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay. Vice Chair Brittany Cummins.
Yeah, so I just had a question from the comments that were read from Board Member Warner. And as I read through this crosswalk, it looked like there was differentiation between the 3 kind of branches of this science. I'm guessing LS stands for life sciences and et cetera, physical sciences, earth sciences, is that my guess? And then physics, is that P? There's a PS and then a PSS, I think.
Yeah, so there are 3 sections: life science, physical science, which consist of both chemistry and physics, and then earth and space science.
Oh, earth and space science. Okay. So,
Okay. Follow up.
so can I amend the motion that's made? Because the motion was to go with the recommendations for from the review committee. I'd like to make an amendment to that, please.
You bet.
Okay. I'd also like the writing committee to consider the recommendation from Board Member Warner to look at those differentiating those sciences into those 3 traditional buckets if they feel like would be an appropriate recommendation. So,
Can I ask for clarification?
yeah.
And we're talking high school?
Hold on, we need a
Yes, sorry.
second to the motion. Second. Okay, now we're in discussion, but go ahead, Ricky.
So just clarification, we're talking the high school level, correct? Because that's what,
Yes, that
Board Member
motion
Warner
was
was
for
referring to.
the high
Perfect.
school level. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing any further, oh, I am. Board Member Lisa Cummins.
Does that include human anatomy? Not just health reproductive or anything, but more human anatomy? Is that into biology?
that would be in the biology section, correct?
Okay, so because I noticed that some of the feedback that I received is that they couldn't see that in the biology.
That is actually one of the suggestions that came from Fordham. That said
Yes.
specifically about that like
Right.
the human anatomy is kind of weak. And that's easily something that this board could say, we need more of that, and we'll say,
Absolutely.
done.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to have Lorraine, since she turned, there we go. Repeat the amendment.
Okay, it is that the writing committee consider looking at differentiating high school sciences into 3 traditional areas. Is that correct?
That's correct.
It's 4.
4 areas.
4.
Okay. Hang on one sec. Brittany?
Sorry, and I just want to make clear that they consider that option. Like if in the writing process they feel like that the other way feels better than that, but that be one of their main considerations as they decide how to structure the high school standards. Sorry, is that okay if I clarify it that way?
Yeah. Vice Chair Ellis?
I'll wait till after we vote on this amendment.
Okay, we'll repeat the amendment to the motion, then we'll vote on it. Lorraine?
Okay, it's that the writing committee consider looking at differentiating high school sciences into, is it 4? 4 traditional areas.
Okay, that's the amendment to the motion. We'll vote on that. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Voting is unanimous. Okay, let's go back to the motion, the amended motion. Okay, here we go. I'm trying to get this turned on here. There we go.
Okay, so the motion was to accept the recommendation from the Standards Writing Committee and move forward with the K through 5 and 9 through 12 Standards Science Writing Committee. And, sorry, I have to scroll down. And that the Writing Committee consider looking at differentiating high school sciences into 4 traditional areas.
Okay, that's the amended motion. We'll speak to the amended motion. Vice Chair Ellis.
I would like to make an amendment also. Since you have that pulled up, can I look over your shoulder? I would like to add, my eyes are getting bad here.
You want these readers?
There we go, thank you. I have some in my purse now. I had to buy those when I got elected. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the exact spot in this. But I would like to add that in addition to NGSS, that we look at other science standards. You know, Fordham has however many listed. Please look at them. Let's look at everything out there. We want the very best, not just because it's popular.
Vice Chair Ellis?
Yes, please.
Will you restate your motion that would kind of, please?
Please
You didn't ever end.
add. I know.
Additional.
So the amendment would be, and I never could find it because I was looking exactly where it is. With the next generation science standards, and I just don't know how many there are out there. So if you could help me on an amendment, but that we look at other standards as well.
That's safe to say. Do we have a second? Okay, discussion. Lisa Cummins.
And I would also add, just for our benefit, is to list those standards that you do look at so that we know, you know, that we could also go look at them so that, you know, we could all be part of that discussion. That would be great.
So that would be, fall under her other.
That
and
would
then they
fall
could be
under her other,
okay.
yes.
All right. Okay, the amendment to the amended motion is Lorraine.
Just a second. Okay, here we go. Okay, that the amendment is to add that in addition to NGSS, that the writing committee look at other science standards.
Okay. Well, they'll be inventoried in the study, or in, not in the study, but in the process. I'm not seeing any other discussion on the amendment to the amended motion. So let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Voting is unanimous. So let's go to the original motion,
Just give me
which
one
is
second.
3 parts now.
Okay, hang on, just give me
Lorraine?
1 second here. I'm putting them together, so. Okay, so the motion is that the board accept the recommendation from the Standards Writing Committee and move forward with the K through 5 and 9 through 12 Standard Science Writing Committee. That the Writing Committee consider looking at differentiating high school sciences into 4 traditional areas, and that in addition to NGSS, the Writing Committee look at other science standards.
Okay, that's the amended motion. So let's vote on it. Not seeing any other discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Voting was. Okay, it was not unanimous. So we have 1 no. Okay. All right, thank you.